I'm Lauren,
And I'm Jordan.
and our story is one of heartbreak, but also there's a lot of hope and healing and joy and peace that has come into our story as well. In 2018, in August, we were expecting our third child, Lydia, and before her, we have two other kids, and my pregnancies were very normal, and there was nothing to worry about with my pregnancy with her. And we, the beginning of August, I believe it was August 2nd, I woke up one morning and I just felt like something wasn't right. So I contacted my midwife, and I went in to see her, and when I was there, she couldn't find Lydia's heartbeat, and so she sent me to the hospital. And when we were there, they confirmed that Lydia was no longer with us. We had two healthy babies, and we really had no reason as to why this happened.
Yeah, as a father and as a husband, it's still difficult today.
I think it's a pain that we realized we were going to have to live with for the rest of our lives here on earth. And that is a really difficult thing to process. It's really hard to live with that pain. But I think that in August, we will be 5 years into this. We will be celebrating Lydia's 5th birthday. And I think that through these 5 years, we have learned a lot. We've had to really lean on God. We've had to trust that He's gonna bring us through this and guide us on the rest of our lives. And we will always live with this pain, but He is there, and He has always been with us. And a lot of people say that God will never hand us more than what we can handle. And I think that losing a child is way more than anyone can handle here on earth. It's not supposed to happen like that. But I think what I've come to realize, and we both have come to realize, is that God is with us every single step of the way. He is there to carry our pain with us, and He's there to carry the burden with us as well. And it just, once I could grasp that concept of that I wasn't alone and that God is with us every step of the way, it brought me some peace. Lydia was born on a Friday, and I remember waking up Sunday morning, and I got up and I told my husband, I said, we need to go to church. And we walked into this church, and I remember just feeling God all around us. And we cried the whole time. We were in service, and I felt His presence.
And so whenever I heard and listened to the teachings and readings of where God says He's never going to give you anything that you can't handle, or carry, I always took that as that Jordan personally couldn't carry, or Jordan, would be able to handle. And so I always looked at it and felt that there really wasn't anything in this world I couldn't handle. I think as part of this process, what I'm learning is that I think when he says that doesn't mean me personally. I think it's things that we can handle as long as we lean on him.
A year after we had Lydia, I got pregnant again around that year mark, and from the very beginning we knew something just wasn't right. At 13 weeks, they wanted me to come in for just a early anatomy scan. And when we went in for that appointment, we found out that the baby was no longer with us. Her heart had stopped, and she just, whatever was going on with her, it was just too much. After that, we didn't know where we were supposed to go from there. We didn't know if God was telling us that 2 kids was what we were supposed to have. And about, like a month or 2 months after that, I found out I was pregnant again. And there's just a lot of emotions that come with that. After losing 2 back to back and not having any answers as to why, it's just scary. And we had to lean on God and just pray and hope that he was gonna bring this baby home.
So with Lydia, just starting a new job, someone who puts together patterns, looked at the patterns of the first 2 children and made a decision not to go in with Lauren when she felt that something was off. And I have to forgive myself over and over for not being with her in that moment. In my mind, followed the same pattern as the first 2. I was actually very excited. Knew that the baby was coming. This is what had happened with Leia, and this is what had happened with Lucas days before Lauren went into labor. She just said something feels different. So by the 3rd time, I'm walking on cloud 9 expecting the baby to come. And she did. I just got a phone call saying that she was no longer with us. I remember being at the hospital, had called some friends of ours, and they had come, pastors from another church, and I remember sharing with him. I knew how to go in and help my wife go through the pain and the pain of going through childbirth, and encourage her through that process, knowing that at the end of that process was going to be some of the most, the highest point in joy in our lives that we had ever experienced before. What I didn't know how to do was to support her through that birthing process, knowing that what was waiting for us was probably the most heartache we'd ever felt at that point. And at that moment, he shared with me that God never gives us anything more that we can handle. And in that moment, I told him I didn't believe him because there was no way I could handle that. And I realized that means I had to lean on God more, because by myself I could not handle it. But through Christ, who strengthens me, I can do all things, even the hard things. When Lydia was born, I remember right after she was born and I see her and she is not crying. It was a moment of truth. All the times before that, I was just having the conversations and the heart monitors and all of those other signs of it. In that moment, it was true. And the next thing I know, Lauren, who had just gone through giving birth to a third child, was having to wake me up, and I was crying so loud that I think the people 3 doors down in the hospital could hear me. And I got to hold her. And we held her as long as we could.
We got to hold her for 12 hours. And then we decided that we wanted our last memory of her to be good. And
God, I did not want to let her go. Driving home that day from the hospital, that I would have never guessed was comforting. But we decided to have, and Lauren suggested it, have Leigh and Lucas come to the hospital. We decided not to let them see Lydia. But we told them that we had lost Lydia and that she had died. It was hard having that conversation with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And boy, that 5-year-old, she understood. But driving home with them in the back seat helped bring a sense of peace that I would not have expected. There's been a lot of struggles. You take the moment in your life that's the highest point that you've ever had when your first daughter's born, and then the second child, my son, was born. To then have that moment not only be the highest point, but then have a child that it feels the saddest and the lowest point. The magnitude difference in that was just unbearable. And so I find myself even today struggling with those joyous moments of my other children, knowing that I don't get those moments with Lydia or Violet. And actually, on Christmas, the first Christmas after Lydia passed, so it was that December of 2018, I found Christmas being very hard, not because of the presents, but because I realized in that moment that when Jesus was born, it wasn't in his birth that the world was impacted. It was in his death that he had his biggest impact on this world. And so after just losing a child, as a father, there was comfort and pain knowing that it was in the death, that the greatest impact was there. And so the hope that came from that, in that moment for me, in that realization, was that even though my daughter didn't get to breathe a breath on this earth, the reality is in her death is where she's going to have the biggest impact on this world. And I strive to try to, as a father and a husband, live up to that impact and make sure that's a positive impact and makes our family and the people around us stronger and bring glory to God. And it's hard to do because I find myself driving to work, and even to this day there's a weight in my arms that I struggle with, and I can feel her. And I want to speak to all the dads out there, whether you've lost a child or you're struggling for whatever the reason. In those moments, don't be afraid to ask for help and lean on God. Because the reality is, He's also a Father that has most likely felt and seen anything that you're going through tenfold.
Yeah. We're not supposed to do this alone. He doesn't want us to do this alone. And through this journey, He has blessed us. And since we lost Lydia, we've been able to bring home 2 more babies to our house. And so we have a house full of 4 kids that are with us, and we get to love on them. And our 4th baby was born in September of 2020, and we had a little bit of a rough start with him. We spent some time in the hospital. He was in the NICU, but we got to bring him home. And God blessed us and allowed that to happen. And when we thought that we were done, He blessed us again. And this time He blessed us with a baby girl who had Lydia's due date. And it was scary. The whole pregnancy was full of anxiety, but I knew that God was going to bring her home. And we celebrated Lydia's 4th birthday on August 3rd. And on August 6th, Lena was born. And we got to bring her home that day.
Yes.
And she and Lincoln, our 4th and 5th, have brought us so much joy. Our 2 older kids have loved them so much. And only God can do that. That was all God, bringing those 2 more kids and bringing our last little girl home. So our journey has been full of heartache and sadness and dark days, but it's also been full of joy and comfort and peace. And know our story isn't over yet, and these kids are going to bring us so much joy, and it's been good.
Yeah, it has been very good, even when it's hard. And I think, though I trusted in God, I didn't know if Lena was going to come home. I think there was a lot of emotions that started to come up with each of the pregnancies after Lydia, and then especially after losing Violet. But I had a sense of hope. I felt a sense of peace. And so when she was born and I heard that cry,
it was a moment of pure joy.
Both Lincoln and Lena are so happy, bring so much joy every day.
I think I like to think of it sometimes as, a lot of people say they're such happy kids and they smile so much, and I like to think of it as they're bringing all the happiness and smiles that we never got from Lydia.